congratulations. On the roof!
Hey everyone.
You see, DC, this is how you make Batman v Superman. And I know that there's people out there that are not going to want me to talk about Batman v Superman, comparing that to this movie. Sorry, you can go fuck yourself. I'm doing it for this. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. We only got one new release this weekend, and it's a big one. Captain America Civil War. The third installment of the Captain America series. Sort of also kind of a mini sequel to the Avengers Age of Ultron, but either way you look at it, it's a movie that shows shows Batman v Superman how it's done. So while many people fear the actions of the superheroes, the government decides to push for the Anti-Hero Registration Act, a law that limits a hero's actions. This results in a division in the Avengers. Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., stands with the act, claiming that their actions must be kept in check, otherwise cities will continue to be destroyed. But Captain America, Chris Evans, feels that saving the world is daring enough and that they can't rely on the government to protect the world. This escalates into an all-out war between Team Iron Man, Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman, Vision, Black Widow, War Machine, and Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland, and Team Captain America, Bucky Barnes, Falcon, Sharon Carter, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, and Ant-Man, while a new villain emerges. And I'm sorry, but I have to compare this to Batman v Superman. And Batman v Superman, this is what you should have done with Captain America Civil War. Here's the beauty of this movie, is that Batman v Superman was a movie that was announced in 2013. Now, I've consistently made the argument that DC basically saw what Marvel was doing and said, we can do it in half the time by putting half the effort into it. This movie didn't get fully announced until well after Batman v Superman was already in the works. They didn't announce Robert Downey Jr. coming into Iron Man until late 2014. And I remember this because when the news broke that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be in it, we were on vacation at Disney World when that happened. So, yeah. This just goes to show you why Marvel, at that time, was doing what DC couldn't do at this point. And yeah, this movie did a way better job of having two legendary superheroes duking it out than that crappy movie did. And really, that's all you got to say about this movie. It did a much better job of a superhero rivalry than BVS did. And how did it do this, you may ask? Simple. Unlike BVS, they have a reason why these two are fighting, and it's a big reason. Tony and Steve are fighting because they don't agree on this new act. They agree on the ideas of it, trying to save the world and all that, but Tony's obviously agreeing to the new act because, well, let's face it, half the shit he's done ever since becoming Iron Man has been his fault, but he also feels guilty about the people that have been killed in the process, while Steve disagrees to it because he has more faith in his own judgment than that of the government. It's not some bullshit reasoning like in Batman v Superman where the only reason they're fighting is because Lex Luthor kidnapped Superman's mother and is holding her hostage to watch these two fight. And the thing that makes them best friends is that, oh, their mothers have the same name. Like, hello? Like, hello, anybody home? Think, Zack Snyder, think! But another thing that this movie does so much better than Batman v Superman is that it knows that even in a situation that requires a dark storyline, you still have to have fun with it and not be afraid to joke around. Something that was entirely missing from Batman v Superman. Oh, I'm sorry, there was comedy there. You know, killing off Jimmy Olsen for fun is one thing. And do I even need to talk about Jar Jar Lex Luthor anymore? Like, BVS did have its funny moments, and they were very few and far between, but they know that even with the darker storyline, there has to be more humor thrown in here. There still has to be banter between the heroes to prove that they're human, and Civil War did that very well. I mean, with the additions of Ant-Man into the mix here. I mean, that works really well. Taking a guy from what is essentially a superhero comedy and putting him here in a more serious movie, it gives it, it not only works here as a comedic personality, but also it gives him a chance to, give a chance to see what they can do in more dramatic territory. Batman v Superman did not. The last thing Batman v Superman did wrong that Civil War got right is that the emotional impact of the situation in this movie is much better established here than in BVS. In Batman v Superman, there was no other emotions except death and despair. Nobody smiled. Nobody emoted. Everyone just came off as lifeless robots from another planet, especially Superman, who never gets a chance to emote in that movie. But here, you feel the emotional impact coming out of these characters. When Steve loses the only person you could still go back to when Peggy dies. Which, by the way, makes the cancellation of Agent Carter, which was around that time, all the more depressing. You could still feel the emotional impact that Steve has. You could still feel the emotions of Tony when he realizes that, what you realize is that the main bad guy is showing how, you know, these elements have played into a part of his parents dying in the I think it was early 90s, late 80s. I can't remember exactly what it was, but for everybody around, you can still feel all the emotions that they're going through, and that makes these people more human. But I'm done trashing Batman v Superman, at least for now. Let's talk about the elements that I really enjoyed about this movie. The new characters they add in here are really good. I mean, this was the debut of Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. Not only coming off as this cool, badass superhero, but Boseman just delivering another memorable performance, which will be immortalized a couple years later in Black Panther. You know, Tom Holland as Spider-Man. This was this was something that everyone was waiting to see. You know, Sony was finally letting Disney bring Spider-Man into the MCU after all these years. They were getting people excited to see what they were going to do here, and yeah. Tom Holland, I'm sorry, as much as I like Tobey Maguire and I don't like Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland is the best live-action Spider-Man we've been waiting for, man. This is the guy we've been waiting for to play this role. He was excellent in combining those great elements of the superhero that we've seen in the past, but also adding that comedic element that Spidey is supposed to have. He's supposed to have one-liners. He's supposed to have that teenage sensibility to him. He's a teenager in high school. And, you know, he's excited to be a part of this, but he's proving his worth to these guys as a superhero, and Holland's performance perfectly encompasses that very well, and we'll see that later on when the character grows up in the Spider-Man movies to follow. You know, Marissa Tomei is very good in here, too. You know, really good as Aunt May, and having a nice little reunion with Robert Downey Jr., who Robert Downey Jr. kind of basically takes as his own war to it, which I think is kind of fun overall. Plus, I mean, once again, Robert Downey Jr. and Marissa Tomei reuniting for the first time since Only You. Great underrated little gem with both of them in it. But both Boseman and Holland's performance are so strong in this that you're excited for when they're going to get their own movies, which ended up working out very well in both of their favors. I like the villain in this movie. You know, Daniel Bruhl playing Baron Zemo. A lot of people were mixed on him when this came out, but I did like him in this movie. Not only is he a great actor to make this role work, but his character and motivation for his evil plan is so interesting compared to some of the other villains that the MCU has had up to this point. I mean, all throughout this movie, they make it seem like they want to cause mass chaos with these other Winter Soldiers, but in the end, you realize that his plan overall is very clever. All throughout the movie, he's looking for information on a specific date in the past, and you think his relationship to the situation with Bucky, played once again very well by Sebastian Stan, but no. He's trying to get into the head of Iron Man to start to essentially cause the battle between him and Captain America, because, you know, Captain America somehow, in a way, kind of plays into what happens to Robert Downey Jr.'s parents getting killed in the movie, and even by the end of it, when they do the whole thing, when they have that big fight at the end, like that, you see why. Like, it's a very good twist that comes very much out of. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, I can't think straight right now. I'm trying to think about what I want to say here, but it makes what happens at the end when these two have their big battle make it worth it in the end, and it's just so well executed. It's a twist that you really don't see coming until it happens, and it was a good, effective twist, man. Like, this is what the reveal of who the real villain of Iron Man 3 should have been like, instead of, you know, instead of having it just be Guy Ritchie being the rich billionaire once again with superpowers and all that. Just like, get the fuck out of here with that. Of course, it helps that you have Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans working off each other very well again. And again, the cast is great. Stan, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, Jeremy Renner, Scarlett Johansson, Paul Rudd, Emily Van Camp, Anthony Mackie, Martin Freeman. Everybody's doing a good job, giving a great performance in this. The visual effects are really impressive in here, and they, you know, the scene early on where you see Tony talking to his deceased parents and the way they make Downey Jr. look like he did in 1991 is very well done. It's the same technique they did to Michael Douglas in Ant-Man to make him look like what he did in 1989. The fact that this didn't get a single Oscar nomination for the visual effects is depressing, especially in the same year where Suicide Squad wins an Oscar for makeup and hairstyling. Yeah, because Cholo Joker is certainly much better than some of the other movies nominated in that category, but let's face it, this was the Academy Awards back in the day where they wouldn't have awarded it regardless, even with the new changes coming. I mean, this was the year, of course, around the time when Oscars so wide, the Oscars back then really didn't give a shit overall, but the action sequences overall are some of the best they have done up to this point at Marvel. The airport carrier scene is one of the most creative and exciting action sequences ever. Not quite the Ant-Man levels, but still pretty awesome for what they're able to do. That final climax where Cap and Iron Man fight is so well shot. The angles they take with some of these shots are so well done. There's a great slow-mo shot of Iron Man using his repulsors on Cap with his shield blocking it. And it's one of the most impressive visuals I've ever seen in a movie like this. And it's interesting because the guys who directed John Wick, Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, were second-unit directors on this, so it makes sense why the action sequences look pretty badass. And it just goes to show how far these two directors have come since then, because a lot of people have asked them to direct their movies, and they've looked pretty awesome with the effects that they've done. This is a great movie, man. I really love the hell out of this movie, man. Captain America: The First Avenger was a great period piece movie. The Winter Soldier upped the ante with not just being a great superhero movie, but a great top political thriller. Civil War surpasses everything they've done up to this point to be the best Captain America movie they've ever made. I honestly have no complaints towards this movie at all. I think it's so much fun. Everything about it just works. The cast is great. The story is great. The direction is great. The action's great. The visuals are great. It's just a great, great fucking movie, man. This joins Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy as one of the best superhero movie trilogies I've ever seen. And rightfully so, man, because they've upped the ante with every film, and they have delivered on every single level. Granted, there was a little bit of a lull with Brave New World, but there was a lot of problems behind the scenes with the direction they were going with it. I don't think it really was the film's fault of that. It was just because there were so many production problems, and there was so much behind the scenes drama going on with that film. I still like it. It's definitely the lesser of the Captain America movies, but I think of Brave New World as like the Toy Story 4, the Kung Fu Panda 4 of that series. Unnecessary, yes. Bad movie, no, not really, but regardless, Civil War is a masterpiece, man. This is one of the best Marvel movies ever. I can't recommend this one enough. If you haven't seen it, seek it out, man. I mean, at this point, you probably should have seen Civil War by this point. So with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we'll take a look at a couple more movies, including Jodie Foster's latest directorial effort starring George Clooney and Julia Roberts, and another underrated little gem of a movie, Money Monster. We'll also take a look at The Darkness. And no, this isn't based off the video game The Darkness, no. It's a completely different Darkness movie, but it's produced by Blumhouse, so will we see the good Blumhouse or the bad Blumhouse? Bad Blumhouse. I'm just saying it right now. We'll take a look at Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, The Lobster, which of course that means it's going to be a delightful little romp, and also Tom Hiddleston starring in High Rise. So we'll take a look at those 4 movies. That'll be coming up here tomorrow on this channel, so stay tuned for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.